Every artist I know, including myself, a lot of people that I went to school with, a lot of teachers, a lot of professionals, and a lot of students like, you guys that are listening. You might be a student, you might be a teacher, you might be a professional, whatever. We all struggle with creativity. That is, that's not something we can avoid. But the more you struggle with it, the more you're faced with it, the more you find ways to overcome it. And to this day, I haven't found like a sure shot way of being like, how do I access that pure creativity? And I guess I've been thinking about it a lot, because the more I, when I'm working, when I'm drawing, when I'm painting, whenever I'm trying to come up with anything really, there are certain things that like to get in the way of being creative. And honestly, it's really all in my head. It's all in your head. It's all just very kind of delusional. It's like your brain trying to keep you from being creative in a way. And I guess the main thing that has been attacking me lately, right, in my mind, is that whenever I want to do anything, the dumb thoughts keep coming up, in that I'm worried about what other people are going to think of it. And even though I've sort of gotten over that, it's still there. It's like I'm like, when I started drawing, I'm like, are people going to like this? Are people going to like it on Instagram? Or it's not as cool as the fan art that so and so does. I'm not doing all the fancy pretty girls and the lighting all the time. And so when I do something for me personally, like personal work, the thoughts that come up are like, even if it's good, even if I'm doing well, it's like the thoughts are, oh yeah, but this is not a Sid Mead, so people aren't going to like it. Oh wait, but this is not as cool as Craig Mullins, or oh wait, but Jamie Jones' stuff is way better, so I should just stop this right now. And then sometimes I just like give up on that piece and start a new one, and that is such an unfortunate reality that has plagued me for a while. And only recently have I been able to like catch myself when it's doing that, and really just be like, it's not about being anything really. It's not about being as good as another person. It's not about being better. It's not about proving myself. It's not about getting validation from other people. I mean, it was for a while, and my art suffered greatly, immensely because of it. And so, how do you come over it? It's like, so how do you get over it? I know that it contaminates the creative process. The moment I allow external opinion of somebody else, or even if it's a delusional assumption of somebody else that I'm having, like I'm assuming that somebody's going to think this, and that of my work, then it ruins my flow. It ruins the creative process. And so the moment that happens, I have to be like, look, it's not about that. Just get in the zone and do the art. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes I have to just like walk away. And I don't know. It's been a struggle. I'm sure a lot of people understand what I'm talking about. If you're creative in any way, like if you're a musician, if you're a writer, if you're an artist, this is definitely there, because I mean, a big part of our art is the part where we share it with other people. We kind of want to take an experience, interpret it, and put it on paper or through a song, and because the experience has some kind of feeling, and then you want to share that with other people. Otherwise, the cycle is really not complete. Because if you just do art and then hide it, like, well, I don't know. It's weird to think that. But although I have done personal art that I've vowed not to show people, so that just to see what would happen, and it is really good art because it's in the most pure sense. But I want to be able to do that even if I'm going to share that with people, and it's just the weirdest thing that I'm going through. Because let's be honest, all the stuff that I've been doing on Instagram, DeviantArt, for the past like several years, has been contaminated with the idea of like, well, I want to do what I think is going to be popular, and because of that, I'm not doing what I'm actually interested in, right? It's like, okay, portrait of a pretty girl, okay, of course it's going to get likes or whatever, and that, I guess that's all right to like do that for the business side of things to like gain traction, etc. Do fan art because, you know, people resonate with that automatically because they're already familiar with the characters. There's all that stuff. But in terms of like you and me personally as an artist, like I found that my best stuff comes when I'm not thinking about any of that. When it's even like when I'm just listening to something like a podcast or an audiobook that's totally irrelevant to art, and I'm just sketching and just letting it flow. That's just my best stuff, because that stuff isn't about, you know, trying to impress other people. It's not about trying to get you know, validation in any way. And that's what I'm trying to make a vow to, like, keep doing that, because if the art isn't about me and what I personally like anyway, like, what's the point, you know? Then it's like catering to somebody else's, what I assume to be somebody else's preference. And I don't know, it's just a difficult thing. But yeah, I mean, I think art, being able to be creative in whatever medium, you know, music, guitar, piano, drawing, painting, sculpting, it's a beautiful thing, because what you can do with this is that, let's say you have an incredible experience, you saw something beautiful, or you felt something when you saw somebody, or there's a certain nostalgic memory you have with your dad or your mom or your family or like a friend, and that's that moment, that feeling has a powerful emotion tied to it. And with art, you can find a way to make other people feel that too, right? And so there's the source, right? So that's the source of that specific kind of creativity. And the result is, well, I mean, depending on how good you are at communicating that, people resonate with it. Like, yeah, I remember when I was young and felt that, or whatever. But if your art, if that source isn't there, and the art is about trying to be as good a painter as an already existing artist out there, or and you're just like copying their brush strokes, and you got their brushes, and you're like, okay, well, then finally I did it. I can render the exact same, you know, Master Chief painting the same way. I'm there. I made it, right? No, it's kind of that's been the narrative for a while, but I think that's really detrimental. It's really detrimental for you as an artist if all you're doing is art so that you can get that pat on the back, or the cookie, or the, hey, good job, you made it, yeah, whatever. And this kind of leads into another topic that I was thinking about, and I'm like on ArtStation, you know, I'm looking at the stuff, and there's like those there's some podcasts here and there about art, and I don't know, it's like I don't know, I guess I'm guilty of this too, but a lot of the talk about concept art or painting or illustration, whatever, it's coming across in a negative sense, like in a sort of pejorative manner, meaning it's not. Anytime you talk about this stuff should be inspirational, like, yeah, this is awesome, let's do this. But the narrative often is like, yeah, man, it was a really difficult time. I finally made it. I'm finally a concept artist, and it took me this and that, and like, yeah. And then you like compare that to an interview with Ian McCaig, and you're like, oh my God, I feel like drawing, you know? Because Ian McCaig, he's like, oh yes, it's wonderful. Anyone can dream. You can dream, and then take those dreams and make them into something beautiful, and you know, listen to music and let that control, and not control, but like sort of communicate itself through your art. And it's like all this talk about awesome, inspirational, motivational things, but when you go to, you know, whether it's the interviews and the talks about, you know, finally getting into the industry, and I guess like the video I made about getting into the concept art industry probably is in that sense, if that is the case. And it's just I kind of would rather take the route of like encouraging people and inspiring people and saying like, look, this is awesome, and I want to let you know that if you're interested, like, go for it, learn. The only person stopping you from doing that is you. There's no like judge, like some CG Hub ArtStation judge who's standing there saying, you're not allowed to learn concept, or you're not allowed to learn how to paint. No, you have this is your life. You're on this planet too. You're part of the human race. You can be as special as you want to be. You can be as insignificant as you want to be. But really, it's up to you. The same thing with pretty much anything in life, really. And I don't know. I haven't really done one of these just podcast things in a while where I'm just talking to the mic. But yeah, this is just what's been on my mind lately. And I kind of want to keep positive vibes. And I think because if your outlook on art, on life is, well, if your outlook on life is positive, if you're trying to make yourself in a situation where you have a beautiful life, a rich life around people that are inspiring you all the time, and you go for walks, you look at things and you kind of take in the world, like from that'll show in your work. But if your outlook on life is very negative, if you're kind of just staying inside all the time, staring at screens on Tumblr or something ridiculous, just on your computer all day, like that is going to reflect in your work too. And so, I don't know, I think I want to encourage everyone as well as myself to kind of design your life, design your life and like you just plan it out. Literally, you're allowed to make a strategy of how you want your life to go. No one ever teaches this stuff in school because they don't get it either. But you can sit down and say, all right, I'm going to make a list of goals in my life. I want to do this, this, and that. And I'm going to start with this and whatever it is that you point to. And you just do it. Like, and I did do a recording or a talk about naysayers. And I mean, if you do have these goals and you are determined to make it happen, trust me, nothing can stop you. Even if people physically get in the way of you leaving the door, you'll find a way around it. It's your life. The moment you allow somebody else to control your life, like, then that's not your life anymore, right? So with art, it's absurd to me that this whole wave of concept artists and all these concept art wannabes or whatever you want to call them, they're like holding this idea of being a concept artist in the industry up on this pedestal, and that is just so annoying. And because of that, it along with it comes a lot of negative connotations, and I'm just speaking my mind, and I think it's important to be honest about this. I learned something from my art director, David Longo. He was talking about there are 3 important ingredients in if you're in the art world or the creative world, and it's that you have to have a healthy balance of inspiration, observation, and imagination. So inspiration, you have to allow yourself to be exposed to other work, whether it's music, paintings, art, to the point where you have an understanding and your palette has a range of content. Observation, so you also have to be able to look at life, look at reality, take elements of reality and experiences and place them in a sort of analytical way in your mind, and you kind of break things down and try and interpret things. So that's observation, and that also ties into observing art as well. And the last one, imagination. Without these 3, it's really, I don't know, there's always something missing. So imagination, we all have an imagination, and as Ian McKegg says, anyone can dream, and the trick is to get a student to dream while they're awake and then put that on paper. And so your imagination, you could come up with the most wild things. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about if your imagination is contaminated with what you think you're supposed to do for popularity or something, then there's something wrong. But if you allow your imagination to be pure, if you allow yourself to access that inner child that you once had before you decided you knew how the world works, then there's something amazing there. And it's like back in if you've ever stared at clouds and you try and find shapes of things and you make up little stories about castles and giant turtles floating in the sky, that's imagination. And you can take the things that you are inspired by, but mix that with the things that you're observing, introduce a little bit of imagination by like flipping something completely on its head and coming up with something cool, then you got something, and whether it's designing a character, whether it's designing a landscape or a story, or whether it's composing a piece of music, it's all relevant. Everything is in everything. There's always a through line. And as humans, we resonate and connect with each other through these mediums, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And so this goes back to like this whole talk about, it's like really hard to be in the industry. It's like, finally made it. I made it, guys. I made it. Like, shut up. Like, dude, that whole narrative is so. To me, that's another thing that starts to contaminate my own work. Like this idea of, putting concept art on the pedestal, and to that point, I'm like, if that's what being a concept artist is, I don't feel like being a part of that. And to me, I just make pictures. And if I have an idea, I'm going to communicate it. If I think there's a cool way to draw a tank, I'm going to do that. But this whole like, all right, finally, I'm a concept artist. Like that's so blah. And there's a really good book called Be Nobody by Lama Marut. I read it a while back, and it's this idea that in society we are encouraged to be somebody, right? You should be a doctor. You should be somebody famous. You should be somebody popular, or you should be respected. Like all these ideas of you should be someone, right? You're supposed to develop some kind of identity and ego so that you've established some kind of, I don't know, whatever. But in the book, it's talking about how, let's turn that on the head. Like, what if you were to instead be nobody, right? And at first it sounds derogatory. Like, I'm not going to be a nobody. I'm going to be a somebody. But what he means is that, let go of this idea that you're supposed to be somebody, right? Meaning, the more you try to develop this image of yourself or this identity, the more you actually push yourself away from being something fulfilling, right? Because you're spending your whole time holding up this shield. And there's another saying that my friend Carlin said. She said, perfection is a 20-ton shield, right? So trying to be perfect for other people to perceive you as perfect is like holding up this super heavy shield. And it's a perfect analogy because it takes a lot of effort to hold up that mask or the shield or the facade, whatever you want to call it. And it's so heavy. And it's called a shield because it's protecting who you really are, or you think it's protecting who you really are. And so what happens is you're spending so much effort and so much focus on holding up this shield, this fake facade of I'm a concept artist, or I'm an actor, or I'm a doctor, and you're holding that up, that you don't have any energy left to just be yourself. And because you've convinced yourself that being yourself is not good enough, or something absurd like that. We've all been there. I've been there. For a long time I didn't think I was good enough, or and it all has an origin and a root of not feeling good enough, for whether it's being accepted in society or in the industry, or a girl, having been rejected before. I know what it's like. And so it's something that you have to realize, that you have to let go of that shield. And so because look, you're here on this planet, you might as well let go of that shield and like let yourself be yourself and be vulnerable. And that's where the purest, I think, most effective and resonating art happens, because the result of holding that shield up, just go to ArtStation. A lot of people, they're just copying each other. I swear, it's like for when somebody gets popular and whatever, and the art goes viral, and then suddenly that becomes some gold standard, and everyone's copying that, and then something new comes up, and then everyone's copying that, and what's left, and there's nothing left but just people copying each other, and we're missing this whole the original kind of interest in art. Like when you were a little kid, like and you're scribbling and you're drawing like Power Rangers or Batman. It was never, at least for me, I never wanted to impress anybody. I never wanted to be like, look, I'm finally good at drawing Batman. No, I was like, holy crap, that's Batman. Give me a crayon. I'm drawing this, and I did. And so that was the purest as it could be, and to try and reach for that again, it's been taking a long time, but I get glimpses of it and I get to taste it every once in a while, and I think I'm starting to slowly climb over that mountain. And I also I realized, like, another thing that's been keeping me from accessing my full creativity, and it's something I didn't expect, and it was my physical environment. If I'm sitting on a chair at a desk, drafting table, whatever, whether it's here at work, anywhere, there's this officiality that's tied with that. I know it's kind of weird, but like there's a sense of okay, this is official, I have to do a drawing, and there's this idea that I'm supposed to make something beautiful on purpose, and that is intimidating. And because of that, it contaminates the creative process. And then the other day, like 2 nights ago, I had sort of an epiphany. I was just like, whatever, I'm just going to lay down. So I laid on my bed, and I had my light on, but I also had a sketchbook nearby. I was like, I'm just going to sketch some stuff. And then like I had a blanket over myself, and I kind of just sat up a bit, and I had my sketchbook in my lap, and I was just drawing, and I was just kind of like letting stuff happen. And holy crap, I felt it again. Like, that was the way I felt when I was a kid when I was drawing. And so there's something about the relaxed state of physical being that allowed me to not be intimidated by this idea that I'm supposed to perform, or because it wasn't about showing my work. And even this video, or the videos I've done on here, showing my drawings or whatever, like there's a lot of hesitation when I start these. It's like, okay, I'm gonna start a drawing, I know people are gonna see this, and because of that, it's not as pure as it could be. And I know this is like high artsy, pretentious kind of ideology, but it's something I think that when you're in a creative block and you're wondering what to do, like what are people gonna like, realize that there's more to it than that. There's something about just saying screw it all, I'm just gonna lay in my bed and no one's gonna see this but me, for now at least, and the stuff that happens is great. And so if you and like I know earlier I said, like, your art becomes complete when you share it with people. I found that if I start a piece and I tell myself I'm not allowed to show this until a couple days, that's a weight off my shoulders. It's actually kind of a relief. Like, it's such a weird thing that's all in my head. But if you tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna draw something, but I'm not gonna show it until like a couple days from now, because before it was like, I have to draw something now and post it on Instagram in 20 minutes. Like, it's such a stupid like approach, because at that point it's about posting, and it shouldn't be about that. It should be about, what's this awesome experience that I want to share with people. Like, what is Spider-Man's coolest pose? I want to draw that, like, let it simmer and come back to it after a day, maybe change a few things, and maybe I'll post it, that kind of thing. And there's like this, if you've ever felt like anxiety about your art or anything in general, if you're going to go to an interview or just like going in public or public speaking or any of that, you might feel this kind of anxiety. And I think through introspection, meaning if you kind of step outside of the situation and look at it from a objective perspective, like, you can literally like draw it out, like, what is your brain thinking in those moments, and you draw yourself as a stick figure and say, these are the things I'm feeling. If this was like a math problem, like an algebra equation, like, what is happening, what can I take out of this, what are the factors that are making this happen? Is this something that I can change on the inside to overcome it? And the answer is actually, yeah, you always can. There's always ways to fix things and kind of rewire your brain, and your not only your brain but your emotions, and you can sort of train yourself to overcome absolutely anything, whether it's fear of public speaking, or fear of posting your work online, or fear of being rejected, or fear of your work not being as cool as blah 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 blah. And so that's something I kind of would like to act more upon on my end, and as well I would like to encourage others to think in that manner. And so back to that book, Be Nobody, allowing yourself to just be nobody, it kind of takes the ego out of it. And if you let go of the ego, You have a lot of room, a lot of breathing room, and it's a weight off your. It's really a burden to try to be somebody. But when you let go of that burden, you can actually be somebody, right? And it's kind of like a catch-22. Like if I let go of this idea of wanting to become this awesome, famous, cool concept artist, yeah, man, I finally made it. If I let go of that, then it leaves a lot of room for me to just be myself and let the art and the creativity happen. And the result might be the art is just so cool that, that earlier thing could happen, that kind of idea. But that's kind of like in the context of me and my life. I'm sure somewhere in your life you can sort of relate to that. And there's like a lot about feelings and emotion. Man, we're getting really artsy here. But, art is often about how you feel. Or a feeling, and it doesn't always have to be like sadness or depression or the whole Tumblr scene, like, I'm sad. Like the feeling could be like exhilaration. Maybe you went skydiving and there's a feeling there, and you can take that and put that in your art. You can take the feeling of what it feels like to be engaged in a sports match or some kind of competitive something, and or like maybe the feeling of what it feels like to be in a fight. I've never been in a fight, but if you did, you can channel that, and if you're drawing like two people fighting, you can really get that feeling through, and you could draw it out. And if it doesn't feel like what fighting is to be, then you keep editing until it feels that way. And then when other people look at it, like, holy crap, I'm actually scared to fight right now from looking at that image. And so same thing with love. If you haven't been in love, good luck trying to make a story or a painting about love. It's like you could fake it. You could be like, well, I think love is about two people holding each other, and that's fine. But if you've ever felt it, you could channel that feeling, and when you're drawing it, it shines through. You just channel it, and you're like, this is what it feels like, and I want to make sure that this piece equals that feeling. And so when you go to like those contemporary art museums with absurd just scribbles and splatters on the canvases, I don't get it. I think it's silly. But if they're trying to like express an experience, like, then to an extent I do understand it. I kind of I wouldn't belittle it, but I guess I have a higher regard for craftsmanship and academic understanding of craftsmanship, just making cool stuff look good with an academic background. So yeah, anyway, let's kind of wrap this up here then, and I hope there was some kind of nugget that you picked up from this, because yeah. All right, stay tuned. Thank you all. Thank you to the few of you who purchased that Gumroad thing. That was very kind of you. I'm learning a lot about the business side of things, and I think I want to keep experimenting with whether Gumroad or my website, and just to understand what it would take to switch from working full time for a company to just kind of being on my own. And that's something that I kind of am interested in. There's this idea of entrepreneurship where you can design your own life and generate your own revenue streams where you don't have to work under somebody else. And that idea, when I started reading books on business, is really appealing to me. So I don't know, bear with me, and thank you for all you new subscribers and everybody else. You guys totally rock, and I'm finally almost done moving in and getting stuff in the new apartment, so expect more content. And yeah, you have a great day, night, afternoon, and yeah, click.